Nachiket sir, can we start?
Yes, we can start. We'll get started.
So, good evening all. On behalf of WRC, ICMA Ashish Bhavsar, Chairman PD Committee, and CMA Vinay Kulkarni sir, Chairman CEP Committee. Welcome you all to our sixth session on Excel macros. Already we have completed 5 sessions and we have a good interactive session with Nachiket sir, and we are getting good knowledge from Nachiket sir for utilizing Excel macros in our day-to-day working. So today's our sixth session. We are going to learn about various method, if then else if analysis, working of the existing auto filters, turning off screen, updating and display flags. So all these things we are going to learn today. The previous sessions are already uploaded on our YouTube channel. So those who have missed the previous session can uh, visit our YouTube channel and go through this session. So now I request Nachiket sir to take over this session. Nachiket sir, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Just a second, something has gone wrong. Okay, can everyone see me? Okay. So, good evening, everybody. Hope my voice is audible to everyone. Sorry, I'm suffering from a little sore throat today. So, probably I'm not very much, my voice is not the sweetest, although I'm not never the sweetest in the truest sense, but today it is a little hoarse. Okay. Uh, but nonetheless, we'll try to manage. Okay. Now is my voice audible to everybody? Please confirm over chat if my voice is
Yes, sir.
audible.
Audible.
It's audible. Okay. All right. So what we will do is we will continue with the exploration of macros. In the last session, we took an exercise of developing a macro from scratch. So suppose you want to develop a macro, how you will do that, what kind of things you will perform. So we got a taste, a flavor of it. Today, let us explore some more macro codes, and then probably on Wednesday, we will take up another situation where we'll try to write the macro. Okay. So we'll try to mix and match in different sessions. So I request everyone, I'll be sharing my screen now. Can everyone see my screen? I request you all to come to this file, file number 5, which is automatic procedures and events. Okay, this is a very simple concept. Let us try to understand and let's learn a few things from there. Automatic procedures and events. Okay, so what do we have over here? If I come to this file, okay, this is completely blank to begin with. Okay. Come to developer tab, please open this file, automatic procedures and events. And then I request you to come to developer tab, Visual Basic, please go to Visual Basic. Within Visual Basic, I request you to come to this project. Do you see a project explorer open? Maybe I'll magnify the screen a little. That might help. Okay, can everyone see this clearly? We have automatic procedures and events. Okay. And within that, we have got Excel objects. Like we have the different worksheets. we have a number of worksheets. We have how many of them? Sheet 1, sheet 7, sheet 6, etc. We have a few worksheets. And then below that, we have this workbook. So today we will focus more on this part. Right now, in this lesson, we'll focus more on this part. We'll focus less on the module. Till now, we have been developing modules, right? Okay, so today we will go a little beyond that and let us accordingly explore. What do I mean by automatic procedures? So we have some auto-driven macros. Most of the macros are triggered when you press some button or something. Okay, you may click a button or you may press Alt F8, select your macro and press the run button. And thereafter the macro takes off. This is how it works normally. But some macros could be such that they trigger automatically. Do you wish that on happening of certain event, the macro should get triggered automatically? If the answer is yes, then you can make use of this particular concept. Okay, so I would like to illustrate this. Let's take up a few examples in the process. We'll try to write some small codes. Now, something very simple that we learned previously is MSG box or message box, right? Let's take example of that. So please come to this window, and in this window, let us go to this workbook. Can you see this workbook? Please highlight that. Not only highlight that, you double click on this work. Okay, make sure you are in the right file. So I got a file called Automatic Procedures and Events. There is apparently a book one also. I got a book one open for some reason. I'll close it. I'm not talking about any book one. Okay, so make sure you are in the right project. First of all, Automatic Procedures and Events. This is the project, and within this project, there's this workbook. I'll double click on that. When I do so, a white plain background opens up on the right side. Right? This is how it happens normally. Now, if you see this white background on the right, I request you to use your mouse and very carefully choose using these drop downs. Okay, is everyone with me? Have you opened this window? Make sure you have double clicked on this workbook so this white background opens up. And from the drop down, you choose, from the first drop down, you choose workbook. Okay, by default, it is general. This general you change to workbook. Okay, Ashish Bhausar sir, have we started the recording? Recording has started.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, recording is on. Okay, thank you.
Hello.
So from the drop down, please select workbook. Then automatically you might see something written. Maybe this kind of a code gets generated automatically. Private sub workbook underscore open. Okay. Then open bracket, close bracket, and at the end we have end sub. Do you see that? Suppose if you don't see that, then I request you to come to the right side, and there is a second drop down on the right side. Okay, on the left side we have workbook. From the drop down, choose workbook. On the right side, we have a number of events, including but definitely not limited to open. So what we want is open, but by the way, I would like to mention that there are many more events. So this is known as event. Okay, what all things can happen with a workbook? At least an illustrative list is given over here. So for example, you might activate a workbook. Okay, a workbook may be active workbook or it may be in the background. And when you activate, this is an event happens that the workbook is activated. Do you wish to trigger any macro on that? Similarly, we have some more events. I would like to take example of some easy events like save. After save, once you save your file, do you want some macro to run? Then we have before close, before print, even before save. Like before these things happen, do you want any macro to get triggered? We have before save as an event and after save as another event. That means you can have a macro either before the save process happens or after the save process happens immediately. Do you wish to any trigger? That is your choice. Just as we had activate, we have deactivate. We have new chart, new sheet. The moment a new sheet is inserted, the moment a new chart is inserted, do you want to exhibit something? Of course, there is open. And then there are many other events. I request you to go through this list. Okay, many things like sheet before right click, sheet before double click. Okay, many such examples are given. Pivot table related things are given. So the question is very simple. Do you wish that some or the other macro should get triggered when either of these happen? I would like to take example of open. Okay, so while there might be a plethora of options over here, I request you to please choose open. And this resultantly creates the start line and the stop line. The start line is private sub workbook underscore open, and the stop line is end sub. Okay, is everybody with me? Please confirm yes or no. You can either say yes or say no, or type
Yes.
yes no in the chat box. Okay.
Yes,
Before
sir.
I would like
Yes,
to
sir.
proceed, I would like to know whether you are able to open this empty procedure right now, having just a start line and stop line, practically empty. Okay, is everybody with me? A few people have confirmed. I hope the others are also with me. Great. So now I am going to illustrate this with the help of a very simple example using MSG box. We learned MSG box in one of our earlier sessions. Now I request you to type here MSG box. Actually type it. It's a very simple code. So rather than opening the macro code library and borrowing from there, I'm wondering if you type it. Okay, just don't make any spelling mistakes. MSG box. You don't really care about the capital alphabet and small alphabet. You simply write MSG box. Excel will make something capital, something small. That you don't worry. Put a space bar, and the moment you do that, you will get some parameters or arguments like an Excel function. Okay. So what you can do is you can put a double inverted comma and just type any message. For example, I'm going to write here welcome. Maybe in a followed by an exclamation mark. Welcome is what I say. Okay. So workbook underscore open. The MSG box is welcome. Make sure you have written welcome in a pair of double inverted commas. Okay, are you with me? For your ready reference, I may type this in the chat box. Mind you, I'm not insisting that you write the same message. You can write any message of your choice. Okay, this is just for experiment's sake. I'm suggesting something. All right. Subsequent to that, just a one-liner code. Just save it and let us close it. In fact, let's close the entire file. So not only VBA window, but the moment I'm through, I'm going to close this. And maybe this file also. Please close this automatic procedure and events file. Okay, the file is closed as well. And now if I come here, automatic procedures and events, can we open it once more? Let us open it once more. Now, first thing I get is this macro warning. Okay, because my macros are disabled, Excel is saying we must enable the content. Now I think you are familiar with this idea already. So of course we want to make use of the macros, so I'm going to enable the content. And if I enable the content, the first thing that I see is welcome message box. Does Excel always greet you like this? Every time you open a workbook, does Excel always say welcome to you? Okay, are you getting this message box? Please confirm. If anybody is struggling at this point, when you open the file, you should be greeted by the message box with the content, whatever you wrote in that, you get. I wrote welcome, I got welcome. Is this the case with everyone, or is anybody struggling? You must tell me now if you are struggling. Okay, please confirm. Okay, a couple of people have said yes. I don't know what the others, but I suppose most of you must have got this. This is a pretty easy activity once you understand it. Okay. So, what has happened? Have you all understood what has happened? Did we run any macro? This is not the usual
One question.
message. Yeah,
Can I ask one question, please?
yeah.
So message is coming all right, but what happens is that unless and until I take the cursor OK and press OK, I'm
Yeah.
not able to operate. That's right.
Yeah, so it's this way basically. You have created what is known as an event driven macro. Okay, so what happens is if I press Alt F11, this is a part of this workbook. Okay, forget the fact that it is in this workbook. Within this workbook, also, we have workbook as the object here and open as the event here. So, this program is going to run only when you open the workbook because workbook open, workbook underscore open, that is the item. So whenever you open the file, the macro will be triggered. Now the macro can get triggered only and only if the macros are enabled in the first place. So I think your question is pertaining to that yellow strip at the top, that enable macros. Unless you enable the macros, none of the macros will take off. Okay. So here these macros are taking off because they are related to this process or related to this event. Event is opening of a workbook. And there are so many other events, right? You might associate another macro which could be based on, let's say, of them we can take so many of them. Let's say before save. Like if I choose before save, then I get a ready-made procedure and okay, so whenever you will save the workbook just before the workbook is saved, whatever you write over here will be saved or not saved, rather triggered. Okay, that will get triggered, then you will save the workbook. Okay, if you want whatever you have typed in, if you want to first save and then run, even that option is there after save. Okay, are you getting the concept? Huh? Just 1 second, hold on. Just a moment. Sorry. So is everybody with me? So this macro gets triggered only on happening of an event. I might choose any other event, say activate. Something very simple. I press Alt Tab and this workbook gets activated. Okay, the other workbooks are not active. Or other workbook is first active and this workbook becomes active. And I press Alt Tab. So in that case, some macro may get triggered. Whatever you write here will be triggered. Whatever. Okay. And the user will literally not get an option to really cut it short. I think Jayesh ji has a question. When I click on macro, I can't see the macro. I think what you are trying to say is you come to your developer and you click on macros over here. So over here you won't see that because it is an event-driven macro. You'll have to go to VBA window, Visual Basic. You'll have to come to your objects. Like if you go to sheet 1, you won't be able to see. Sheet 2, you won't be able to see. You'll have to come to this workbook. This everything is a part of this workbook. So you'll have to come to this workbook to view it. That's the only way you can see that. It won't be visible. That macros. Okay. Jayesh, have you followed?
Sir,
think
I,
one
I
more
have a
question.
question. I have a question
Okay.
here.
Okay.
Can I?
Please. Yeah, please. Go ahead.
So the question is, see, our initial thing was only a message box. Okay. The command was only message box and it was displaying the message welcome. Okay. But our macro does not tell what is to be done after the message box is displayed. Okay.
No,
But practically
I'm
what I see is only if I take my cursor to the OK button and press OK button, till such time my cursor is not released for any other operation. How do I connect that? Because earlier, I think in the last session or so, we were actually, designing the message box and, whether it is OK is pressed or not. I mean, that question is not written in this macro bias, right?
See, you can write anything. See, my point is something altogether different. So we have written just for example a simple message box. You can write anything. Okay, you can have a 5-liner, 10-liner program also. The main thing that we are saying is whatever we write, is it getting auto triggered with the happening of an event? So my whole point is here's an event. What I'll do is I'll close this file. Okay. And next time I open this file, anytime in future if I open this file, so the very first thing could be to enable the macros. In fact, I didn't have to enable the macros. So the moment I open the file, this macro gets triggered. Now, whether this was composed of one line, whether this was composed of 4 lines, whether this command or that command, that is your prerogative. But can we at least get ourselves demonstrated that if you write some code, it gets auto triggered thanks to happening of an event? That is what we are seeing. Because till previous Wednesday, whatever macros we either read or we saw or we wrote, even for that matter, like in the last session we wrote, okay, all that had to be triggered. You had to have a trigger point. Now this is getting auto triggered. How? By the happening of an event. What is the event? Event is opening of the file. File opened up, the macro triggers automatically before giving you any chance to play with the possibilities. So that's the main point that I'm trying to drive. And in that context, I thought,
Okay.
say, whatever is written gets triggered. And here, thanks to the opening of the file, this thing got triggered. So you can write anything. Okay. Code is secondary here. What code you write, that I leave to you. And the moment the macro is the event is happening, the macro is getting triggered. Yeah, so that's how we have built it. There is no way to trigger it otherwise. Like even if we go to macros button, we can't see the macro. How will you run it? Okay, there is no icon, nothing. Okay, so I hope that answers your question. Anybody else is having any question? Is everyone else with me? I hope everybody else is with me. We can try with one more example. And this time, what I would like to do is I would like to consider some sheets. So, any event in the context of a worksheet or sheet happens, then automatically macro should get triggered, some other macro. So, has anyone worked previously with income tax Excel utilities? Income tax department, Excel utilities, anybody? Has anyone used them?
Yes, very much.
I'm talking about those days when it was TCS was running the show. Today it is Infosys, and that
Okay.
was the time when we would create XML files and upload. Okay, so my whole point is that we have a worksheet event here, and we will try to trigger the macro with the help of this worksheet event. Okay, let us try that. Now I request you to come to any one sheet, let's say sheet one. Okay, please come to sheet one, and we'll try to run a macro. So again, I'll choose one from the drop down worksheet. Now, because you are a part of a sheet, okay, you are a part of sheet one. So from the drop down, what can you choose? You can choose only worksheet. Correct. And then you have another drop down. From the other drop down, you can select, let's say, activate. Okay, I'll choose another event called activate. What about this extra matter? Okay, let this extra matter be there. No problem. Okay, let this be there. As long as you don't write any code, doesn't matter. It is harmless. Now, which sheet? Sheet one. Okay, where are you writing as a part of sheet one? What if you go to sheet two, you can't see it? What if you go to sheet three, you can't see it? What if you go to sheet four, you can't see it? This workbook, you can't see it. You can see that particular code only if you come to sheet one. Only if you come to sheet one, you have worksheet underscore activate as the event. Okay, so I hope you are having the right combination. So worksheet on the left side and activate on the right side. Okay, is everybody with me? Naveen, I did not understand your question. Naveen, I think you have written something. I don't think I have understood exactly what you were trying to. Ah, for old, I raised that topic. Something came to my mind, I slipped. Ah, so old ITR, the TCS portal, we were talking about that. XML, I don't know why I suddenly switched the topic. So, why I brought up that topic was because if you remember in that old income tax return ITR Excel utility, whenever you would go to the TDS file, TDS sheet, I mean to say, okay, one sheet was reserved for TDS, Form 16A, Form 16B, Form 16 and 16A actually. Okay, so over there you would enter details on TDS, even advanced tax also. Normally it used to be the same sheet where you would enter advanced tax payment. Now, whenever you would visit that particular sheet, every time it would ask that please make sure you have filled all the data related to TDS, blah blah blah. There was some standard message which was flashed. Do you have any memory of that? Okay. In the same session, the file is on, and every time, like 10 times you visit that sheet, 10 times you'll get that message. In the same session. It may sound foolish to you, but basically it was an event-driven macro. What used to happen was every time that worksheet is activated, that message box would get triggered. Can we try to do a replica of that? So I can just write here MSG box. Okay. And in a pair of double inverted commas, I would like to write, please check your previous the previous. Okay, some message. Okay, what you are writing, which code you are writing, that is a little secondary. Just write something. Okay, so I have written a message just for fun, just for the old time's sake, for the good old days. I have written something. Okay, again, a message box is what I'm using, very convenient. You may ask me why am I using message box? So message box is a very harmless code. A message gets popped up, so what? Nothing happens. So I'm using a very simple harmless code. Okay. Now if I click on sheet one, because it's a part of sheet one, right? If I click on sheet one, I'm greeted by this message, right? Now if I go to another worksheet, okay. Every time you visit this sheet, every time tirelessly it will flash this message. How come? That's because there is an event-driven macro which is getting triggered. The event is activation of the worksheet. Is the worksheet getting activated? If the answer is yes, then flash this message box. And we don't comment anything on what if the answer is no. Okay, so basically nothing will happen. But
So if I try to use the message box command when we do the activate event for the this workbook
right,
object or module,
this workbook, okay,
yeah, in that
not
case it's not working.
see, are you
Whether
deactivating the workbook in the first place?
yes, I am doing alt tab going to a different you know I mean file or open browser and coming back to it using alt tab. I also tried with the mouse, so I'm not sure what's.
Actually, it should happen. Let me try. I come here. I have workbook underscore activate. Uh, so I'm just going to type some gibberish. Okay, just to save time. I'm wondering what to write. I'll just write something. Okay, this is a part of this workbook. Yeah, quickly jump to this workbook while listening to the question. And now somehow I already had a workbook underscore activate, so I'm using that. What I'm expecting is if this workbook is activated. Okay, let us see. Now what I'll do is I'll create a new workbook. Now if I do an alt tab, see I'm getting the message. So I did an alt tab. Now this workbook is activated. I got the message. Again I come to another workbook. Again I'm getting it. Are you understanding?
Yes, it's not working
Uh,
out for me.
may I may I have a look at your code? Maybe if possible, if you can take a
Yes,
screenshot and paste it in the chat box. I think that facility is there. It was used by the other participants.
okay.
In the meantime, Naveen has a question. Do we have to save macro to activate this? Nothing of that sort. Saving is not necessary.
Sir, I tried once. It was not working. That's why I asked.
What was not working?
The second code which we write now just now for TDS.
Okay. So you're Naveen speaking, are you? Are you Naveen speaking?
Hello. Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Ah,
In the TDS case, I had tried without saving it. Then it was not showing me that populate. It was not populating. So that is why I asked you. I just closed the X means visualize basic window and Excel, and then I open it. Then it was not showing me that uh, code we written, and as well as it was not working. That's why I ask you: Is
okay.
it? I mean, do we need to save? And saving is compulsory or something? I think so.
Saving is compulsory if you have closed it. If you have closed without saving, then no code was remaining. Saving
Okay. If
becomes
we
compulsory if you want to close it. If you don't want to close it, you write a macro and then it works. So I have not closed, I have not saved the file, but I have
okay,
written some incremental portion and which is this much. I just now wrote this private sub worksheet under macro.
okay.
It's working. I have not yet saved it. If I come back here, okay.
Oh, so whatever we write, it automatically means stored
Yeah,
there. Yeah. Okay.
it's automatically stored, and of course, you want it, then ideally you should be saving it. Anything that's even slightly important, you should keep saving it. So I
Okay.
am demonstrating with the help of MSG box. There is nothing compulsory about MSG box. Or banish from your mind the thought that this is for a flashing messages. This that. Flashing messages is a harmless way. Okay. But if I want, I can do some other things also. For example, instead of MSG box, I can come to cells 1, comma 1. What else should I do? Hmm. Just for fun, what I'll do is okay. Then if you really want, you can even flash a message to end. Okay. So I'm doing that. So I've written a very simple program quickly, and those who are zealous enough can try this with me. You can also write. In fact, I'll recommend to everybody. Okay, just write a macro. Where am I doing that? I'm doing that as a part of this workbook. Why don't you also try it? Come to this workbook, double click. Okay, choose the event, activate if it is not chosen already. If it is not chosen already, please choose activate. So you should have the combination workbook activate. And within that, you quickly type this program if it hasn't been typed already. Okay, just excuse me for a minute. I'll just fetch some water and come back. Okay, I'll be right back. Yes, I'm back. Thank you for your patience. So, are you through? You finished writing that? It's a simple program, but make sure that you don't make any spelling mistakes.
Sorry to interrupt, but now I think it was not working because I did not have a different Excel sheet or Excel file open. Now it's working
Oh,
after I opened a.
ah, yeah. You need because activate means will come from maybe another Excel file is what you really need. Okay, so then you will deactivate and reactivate, and every time it gets activated, then you know. Okay, for your ready reference, what I've done is I've pasted the portion of the code which I typed. Okay, and that's it. Somebody has a question. PG. So that's Sashindaran Gopalakrishnan ji. So I have a question.
No, this was, I'm sorry, this was
Okay.
raised earlier. I forgot to look it up.
Yeah. I'll just lower the hand, no problem.
Okay.
Thank you. Chalo, let's see whether this works. Okay. So I have written this program. Okay. Workbook underscore activate. Now, if I come here, okay, I'm in this particular file. I go to another Excel file. Then I come back to this file. Something happens, and incidentally, I was in this sheet. Okay. Okay, it has gone into a loop actually. I'm inserting a new file every time. Something silly is happening here. Okay. So probably I went a little complacently. I think one or two codes have gone wrong. That's why testing is so important actually. We end up making some mistakes here and there. I'll quickly open the macro code library. I think one of my code has gone wrong. I was a bit complacent in my approach. I think I should have said save cell.copy. Let me set it to copy. I've written active sheet.copy. It should be active cell.copy. Okay, active cell.copy. Other things look okay to me. If I quickly observe, if I using my face, say I'm in sheet 2, just for example. There's 1 comma 1, instance 200 comma 500. Paste it there. Now this. Insert. For some reason, it is going in a loop actually. But if I come before, some reason it was executed multiple times. Maybe because of some one or two more things. Suppose I am somewhere here, if I write is A, B, C, D, something. And if I go to another workbook, let's say this one, then if I come back, something happens very quickly. Okay, so the whole point that I'm driving is uh, this code gets triggered automatically. Okay, the moment the workbook is activated, okay, there might be some issues with the code, some bugs. That is all secondary. What I'm trying to say is you can test it and you can work on it. But the code is getting triggered automatically. Can everyone see that? Right? So that's happening. So what I'll do now is I'll just close, I'll remove this because otherwise it will keep troubling us every time we come to this point. Okay, so this is only for demonstration sake, but otherwise I'll just use backspace and I'll eliminate this. Okay. But whereas with worksheet you can do these things. Like sheet one, in case of sheet one, what do we have? We have a message box. So every time you visit the sheet one, you will be greeted by this message. Okay, so you automatically get the message. Every time you visit the somehow it's hanging at my end. Now it is.
Sir, are we actually analyzing as to what has gone wrong with the code which we have written?
To be honest, even I'm not completely sure. So one thing
Sir,
I'm sure about is
sir,
this.
sir, I believe after selecting cells 200, 500, so the cursor has come to SF in the Excel
uh,
sheet. After after the cursor comes there, we need to copy something for pasting, no?
so copy is here, na? So this
No,
should be
I
the
mean,
code.
activate copy. Okay, so
Let me share it over the chat. I've
okay,
got too many workbooks.
I understood.
So I made a small change actually,
Hmm.
and I'll just paste it here. And that last MSG box also, I will suggest let us drop that. Because message box for some reason is causing issues. Okay, so this is the command, this is the code I would like to suggest. So maybe you can put this code and try your luck. Okay. In any case, whatever code you may put, see, that code is secondary here, but let's try to understand the bigger picture and the kind of topic that we are doing. The, the topic that we are doing, we are focusing more on the fact we are discovering that there are event-driven macros. Okay? And that casts a higher responsibility on us when it comes to macro security. Because now just imagine if you have macros which can run on their own based upon happening of a very simple event like workbook underscore open. Now just imagine I want to write a malicious code. What can I do? I can write something really malicious and I will put that under workbook underscore open. Say for example, it will run through your directory and delete all the Excel files. Okay, I can do that, something like that. So before you realize and before you take some corrective action, maybe we'll shut the Excel application using Task Manager or something. Before you do that, significant damage would be already done. So that becomes an issue. And there are intelligent ways in which I can achieve that. For example, what I might do is I might send you a macro which will stay dormant for about 100 days. Thereafter, it will get triggered. So you have forgotten that you had downloaded an infected file 100 days back. And today the macro runs and disturbs something, and then you are wondering what has gone wrong. Everything looked in order, but then something has gone terribly wrong. How can? So, these are the risks, and that's why the macro security that we learned on day one is so important. you must disable the macros by default. So most dangerous code also, if I send to you, it will simply not start unless you enable the macros. Getting the point? The reason why this is so critical is because some macros won't wait for you to trigger. They will come uninvited. They won't wait for your invitation as far as running the macro is concerned. Okay? All right. So, a few examples we have seen. We can have more examples in this, basically related to the different events. I leave that to everybody. Okay?
Sir,
If you have any questions on this particular idea, basic idea that we have event-driven macros, the macros can get auto-triggered. Please ask. Yes, there was a question somebody was asking.
sir, I mean, regarding the event-driven, this methodology is okay, but can we, for a minute, go back to the code which we were trying to, run, and error message was being thrown up? Can we
Okay.
just for a minute go? Do you think we should go back to that? Because so that
See
paste
this.
was activate sheet paste. Should it not become active cell paste?
No, it is
Just
active sheet. That's how the code gets generated.
okay.
Like if I go to the library also, no, you'll see the same code.
So copying is active
This
cell
thing,
copy. Okay.
see, this might be a little counterintuitive actually.
Cells
But if you
select
see, the active sheet dot paste, application dot paste copy mode is also.
active sheet dot paste only. Okay. Okay.
Like if you do a recording, okay, if I do something, a recording, okay, if I just do a record, just observe. Okay, what I'll do is I'll record it in front of you. Okay,
Okay. Okay.
so just call it copy paste. Okay, I'm creating a macro called copy paste. I'm doing a recording. Recording is started. I'll do a control C. Somewhere I'll reach and I'll do a control V and then press escape. That's it. Now I'll stop the recording. Okay, please record simple macros like these. Okay, I'm not sure whether you have done recordings, Okay, all of you must go on a recording spree now. Really. Just record each and everything. That will increase your familiarity with the code. Okay. It's important that you increase your familiarity with the code, and that way you will understand things better. So now if I go to Visual Basic, I've done the recording here. Now I've got a folder called modules. Okay, in the same project, till now there were no modules. Now there is modules. Within modules, there is module 1. If I double click on the module, I can see copy paste. And can you see over there selection.copy, range e3.select, active sheet.paste. So for paste, the command is active sheet.paste. You can read it this way, active sheet के ऊपर paste करो. Okay, the other day I discussed this, that you can read this in English, and if you are going to read this in English, the right way of reading this would be active sheet के ऊपर paste कीजिए. You might ask where to paste. Active sheet के ऊपर paste कीजिए, ठीक है, लेकिन कहाँ पर? So that is what the previous line will tell you. Previous line is range e3.select. E3 को select कीजिए और active sheet पे paste कीजिए. Okay, whether this is intuitive or not so intuitive, but this is how the syntax is. For paste, this is the command. Okay, that's how it is, whether you like it or you don't. So keep recording, go on a recording spree, and recording this. Okay. So any other question? Anyone else is having any other question? If there are no questions, then we can move to the next lesson. What we'll do is,
Uh, Sir, I just observed one thing. The problem
yeah,
with the code was that this line application dot cut copy mode is equal to false. That line was creating problem. I made that line inoperative, and then it was
okay,
getting pasted appropriately. The range
acha.
which we
Maybe
selected,
that is
the range which we
related to, okay, must be something.
the range which we selected got pasted. The cell which we selected, which got pasted to the new cell which we have selected. That much is right. Then the next line application dot cut copy mode is equal to false. I made it inoperative.
Mm.
Then that
Okay,
error
great.
message was not coming.
Acha. Okay, what error message were you getting, by the way?
Okay.
What kind of error message were you getting? Because I was not getting error message, but I was going into infinite loop. Like one by one, files were opened and it was just pasted over and again.
I was
I was
actually
not.
getting an error message.
Acha. Okay, no problem. I was just curious, like if you might know it. Okay, we'll move on for now. So let's go to Appendix E macro. Now this is an actual example. Okay, till now whatever macros we saw, be it variables, we read the code inside dialog boxes, loops, even automatic procedures and events. Whatever we read over here were hypothetical in nature. Okay, we were just looking at concepts and we were discussing about them in a hypothetical way. But Appendix E macro is a is a very simple macro actually, but it is a real macro. We actually developed this for some reason. That we had to do some task. The task was very easy. I won't say the task was difficult. So the macro is not big, but it was actually a task. And without macro, it would have taken a lot of human effort. So what we did was we simply created a macro as simple as that. So we are going to read this, requesting everyone to open this file. I just connect my charger. Okay, is everyone ready? So we have opened this particular file. Okay, just press Alt F11. Acha, before we do that, I would like to just discuss what that work was. So we had to create an appendix. Okay, we were creating certain reports, and there was an appendix associated with that. Okay, and this data was related to 2009 apparently. Okay, so there are dividend details, and then there is a client list. Okay, so we have a list of clients, and for each client, there was an applicable appendix. So just for example, come here, and if I apply filter on this client code, so these records are visible. Maybe if I go for some another client code, this one, then there is another set of appendix. So this was the title, dividend outstanding for more than 6 months, and we had to present that an appendix. Okay. So how do we generate these appendices? So many of them for each client. The idea was it was a laborious job, where one by one you had to apply filter for each of the client codes. And accordingly, a table would get created, and this had to be printed also on a piece of paper. So we have to print this, and then we have to work with it. So then I thought, can I write some simple code for this? This is a very old file, and that's where you can see actually the file format is a .xls. If you observe carefully in the folder, you can see this is in the format Microsoft Excel 97 2003 worksheet. It's a .xls file. Some of you, I suppose many of you must have worked on .xls files also before the advent of Excel 2007. Okay, till Excel 2003 was primarily the .xls files. And from Excel 2007 onwards, it became .xlsx. Okay. Similarly, Word became docx and PowerPoint became pptx. Okay. Prior to that, it was .doc file, .xls file, and .ppt file. Anyways, so coming back to this macro, I'll press Alt F11. Let's examine the code. Now there are some interesting portions here. Okay, the file that I'm talking about is appendix E macro. So, just to avoid confusion, I'll close the other files. Automatic procedures, let me close that file. And then I've got macro code library also open. Let me close the library file also. Okay, so app underscore preparer. That's the name I've given it. App underscore preparer. And the first command over here, you might see, this is a very interesting command. Application.screen updating equal to false. In fact, if you glance at the bottom, you have a corresponding line application.screen updating equal to true. Can you see both the lines? Okay, at the top we have application.screen updating equal to false, and at the bottom application.screen updating equal to true. Now, what do I mean by application.screen updating? So, screen updating will update the screen, as the name might suggest. Okay, we just update the screen. That means what? Now I'm doing something over here. Okay, if I click here, what happens? A window opens up, doesn't it? Then I will press this clear button, clear filter from client code. If I press this clear button, now some changes have happened. Now I can see the entire data. I might apply filter on another field. Let's say I'm applying filter on some 2-3 securities here. So accordingly, my screen has again got updated. Then I may go to another sheet. My screen will get updated. Now it is showing a different picture. This is what we mean by screen updating. So any action that you perform in Excel gets automatically updated. Okay, that is what we mean by screen updating. Do you want screen updating? That is one big question. Okay, the answer for that could be no. In fact, generally, when macro is working, we don't need any screen updating. Sorry. When macro works, why do you want screen updating? Because do you intend to work while macro is also working? So whether macro updates the screen or it doesn't matter. And to save processing time, processing power, we actually turn it off. Because then it's like, imagine macro is working and then it is also showing to you what it is doing. Let it not show on a real-time basis. Let the whole macro get over and then I will see what kind of output has come up. Especially the macros which are tried and tested, which have become stable now. No bugs are there. It's working really fine. In that case, you should actually turn off the screen update. It increases your processing speed. Okay, if a macro is going to otherwise take 5 minutes, thanks to screen updating, it might take 4.5 minutes. So some kind of efficiency is achieved by turning off the screen update. Okay, so that is the first line. Then there are more lines. Let us run this using F8. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll suitably arrange this in my Excel. Just arrange my window this way. Okay, can everyone see this? Okay, is everybody ready? Just adjust your VBA window. Adjust your VBA window in such a way so that you can see the Excel behind it and the VBA window in front of it. Then I would like to do F8 and check accordingly. Is everyone ready? Shall we get started? Yes or no? Please tell me. Yes, then tell me yes. If you require time, tell me no. Hello? Let me check the message. Should we get started? Hello? Okay, Brijesh Kevadia ji says yes. Shashidharan ji says yes. Naveen says yes. Nitin Surve says yes. Okay, great. Let us get started in that case. Okay, it seems everybody is ready now. So I'm going to press F8. You know this very well now. Whatever is highlighted in yellow is about to get executed. So we are about to get started as far as this macro is concerned. I press F8. Now we have started. The first line is application.screen updating equal to false. But honestly, screen updating equal to false works when you are running in normal mode. Okay, we'll do that towards the end just for demonstration, maybe. But if you are doing this in break mode, right now, this is in break mode. Can you see this word break in square brackets after the file name here? Okay, on the title bar of your macro, you have the word break in square brackets, correct? So my point is, if you are on a break mode, then in that case, screen updating doesn't get turned off. And it is very logical thing. Because if you are in the break mode, that means you are doing testing or debugging. If you are doing testing or debugging, in that case, you want to see what's happening. You want screen updating. Yes or no? Because that's a manual intervention. Whenever there is a manual intervention, you actually want screen updating. So even though this line is there and we are going to execute it, it won't really get executed. And the real fun is when we will run it in normal way. That time I will demonstrate. So right now, let's just press F8 and nothing happens apparently. Now the next line is worksheets dividend details dot select. So a worksheet's name is given, and I would like you all to mentally note very clearly that this word dividend details, this phrase dividend details has been enclosed in a pair of double inverted commas, which means this is exactly the sheet we are talking about. Okay, this is not a variable, this is a constant. So when I press F8, I go to that sheet. Can you see? Now, has screen updating happened? Yes, screen updating happened. The screen updating happened for the simple reason that we are supposed to do testing or debugging. Okay. Now the next line. I would like to consider this entire block in its entirety. I would like to discuss it. The language is slightly technical. I'll read out and I'll try to make it as easy as possible. If not active sheet dot autofilter mode, then I think in one of our earlier sessions, we had discussed that if you use if followed by a condition and then, and after writing then, if you take a line break and then you might write a little, eventually you need to type end if, right? Do you remember that? If then followed by a line break must end with end if, correct? You must declare that if ends here. And if को बंद करो, if को खत्म करो. That's what you must tell by writing and if. Correct? So this is like start if, this is end if. Okay, have you understood why this line end if is written? For the simple reason we have a block if. We have an if where if the condition is satisfied, we are not going to do one thing, but we are going to do multiple things spread over multiple lines. So that's where we need an end if. Okay, this basic idea is clear to everybody. We discussed this previously also, just in case you have forgotten. In that case, this is a revision now, henceforward remember. Okay. Okay. So we have a block if then, and end if. What is in between? In between whatever you have written, these three lines are there in the middle. These three lines are conditional. So if the condition is satisfied, then you will come here. That's the idea. Okay. Now, what's the condition? Let's read the condition. Not active sheet dot auto filter mode. Okay. Not active sheet dot auto filter. So not is negation. It is negation of what? Active sheet dot auto filter mode. In simple words, we are checking, do we have filters in this sheet? Okay. If we do not have filters, okay, active sheet dot auto filter mode means there are filters, but then the way it's written, it is not active sheet dot auto filter mode. That means there are no filters. I am saying if there are no filters, then what to do? The next line is then active sheet dot range A6 dot auto filter. So you come to active sheet. Which is active sheet? As per one of the earlier lines, the active sheet, it is automatically understood it is dividend details. So within dividend details sheet, we'll go to the range A6 and over there we'll plant auto filter. So A6 is this. This is A6. We'll come here and we'll give the filter. I would like to demonstrate. Okay, these two lines we have read. I would like to demonstrate. And for the sake of demonstration, I'll remove the filters. Okay, filter should be altogether removed. You will come to data tab. Something happened. I don't know why. What? But okay, I have removed the filters. Okay. For the sake of demonstration, I have removed the filters from event details. And now pay attention what happens. The condition is not active sheet dot auto filter mode. Will this get satisfied? I can quickly go to view tab, immediate window. Okay, let me take this chance to revise immediate window. So if I go to view tab, I can launch immediate window. The keyboard shortcut is Control G. And if I want to quickly evaluate this, I can highlight this condition, right? The open question mark is this. Then it says true. True means indeed there are no filters. Another idea could be to remove the word not, which is a negation. Then I'm writing active sheet dot auto filter mode. Now what will I get? Any guesses? If I press enter, what will I get? Just a guess.
False.
False. Correct. When I hit enter, I get false. Don't I? Okay. So not is serving as a negation. Uh, Interesting thing to mentally notice, you have any statement. If you want to negate it, put not word. Okay, we have an Excel function with the name not, which does exactly the same thing. Okay, the meaning gets completely opposite if you insert any formula in not function. Typically, any formula which has a logical output. I mean, any formula which leads to true or false. So all along I was getting true, but now I use not. Now I say becomes opposite. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is we know what's happening with this not active sheet dot auto. It's saying true. When I press F8, it goes down. Okay. Have you understood or this is a surprise to you? Okay, are you understanding? Because the condition is satisfied, it went down. Okay, do we have auto filter? So actually, let me put it this way, this line is saying effectively condition. If the auto filter mode of active sheet is off or it is disabled or something like that. Okay, filters are not present. If they are not present, then you apply. Okay, you understand it? Now let's apply the filters. Active sheet dot range A6 dot auto filter. When I press F8, just observe where we go. We go to A6. When I press F8. So now I got the filter.
Sir, one question.
Uh,
This is it not this? If not, is it not the same as if false? So if you write if active sheet dot auto filter mode is equal to false, is it not the same as if not active sheet
no.
dot
I'll
auto
come to
filter
that
mode?
part. I'll come to that part. So I've got a line just a little ahead of that. That is active
Okay.
sheet dot filter mode equal. So I'll talk about the difference. But it's a good question, and let me make some beginning. Let me answer partially. What is this active sheet dot auto filter mode doing? So it is basically testing the presence or absence of filters. Do you have filters? That's the question. So now for that matter, if not active sheet dot auto filter mode, then okay, what's going to happen? I do have filters now, and then if I press F8 here, then not is what we want. So I do have filters now. Now if I press F8, it comes down directly. It escapes this one, active sheet dot change. Okay. So I want everyone to try this. Okay, just apply the filters and come over here and then press F8. Okay, so it bypasses that line. Have you understood why this line was bypassed? This line was bypassed because this condition was not satisfied. Okay, so we are just talking about whether these filter drop downs are there or not there. And accordingly, either will come here or will come here. Now, because I have kept the filters, okay, just for exploration's sake, I have kept the filters. So now I have come to the next line. As you know. What is the
So
next line?
else got operated instead of them.
Correct. And that else is also an else if, because that is also a condition where I say else if active sheet dot filter mode equal to true, then active sheet dot show all data. So what this line is effectively telling us is, suppose if I've gone for kind of a filter. So I'll just pick up something, okay? Don't ask me why. Just at random, I picked up something. Now, what is the next question? Now, sir, I'll answer your question completely. I'll attempt to answer all your question completely. This question asks, else if. So again, we are asking a question, which is continuation of this if. That's where the command is not else. The command is not if, it is else if. So basically, it's the time to say else because here we had then. Okay, if the condition is satisfied, then you will do one thing or 100 things. Eventually, sorry. So eventually, this needs to be closed by end if, but we are just checking. So active sheet dot filter mode equal to true. Do we have filters applied? Filters being present is one thing, and have the filters got applied could be another thing. So indeed, the filter has been applied over here in number filter. Whatever. Any guesses what's going to happen? When I press F8, comes to the next line. Does this surprise you? Why it came to the next line? Why it did not directly jump to end if? The reason is very simple because the way this condition, uh, the way this is written actually, else if. So it says now here either this way, either because the filters were already present, or maybe because new filters were brought here. Yeah, either they were present already or they were brought here. Now we are what we are doing is so let us see how it behaves. Now we have come here. Active sheet dot filter mode equal to true. Yes, filters have been applied. Now we are talking about applying the filters. You have filters in the sheet, but are you using them, or have they effectively become like a showpiece over there? Okay, are we using those filters? That is what I'm asking. If the filters are used, so active sheet dot filter mode equal to true means the filters are used. Then active sheet dot show all data. I think this active sheet dot show all data might be understood very easily. Okay. So if I'm going to press F8, just observe what happens. When I press F8, all the filters are clear. Have you understood this para? If there are no filters, then first you get the filter. Then we have else if. When I say else, but within that I'm putting another if. So this is a little more efficient than Excel because in an Excel cell also you can have one if function, you will type some condition, and then you can have another if function. Okay. But here if you see, we cannot say that the end part is common. We'll have to accordingly, what do you say, the brackets and all at the end. Here we are a part of else if, like we are a part of that if only. So only one end if is sufficient. We don't require multiple end if. Okay. Have you understood this block if? Okay, the advantage of writing, you could have written else also, simply else, and then if has a separate statement, but it takes more time. And then because you are having a line break, you will have to write an end if also. Here we are spared from that. Okay. Hello?
What is this L3 written in the code in 2 lines? Start and end.
1 second. Where is it written? L3, I'm not getting. Where is it?
In this part of the code, in the first line, if not activate sheet, it ends with what is that? L3 or I3? What is that?
So I think the remark that you have put as 13 with the single inverted comma.
That single inverted comma thing.
No, but I'm not able to locate where exactly is the line you said.
The same thing, because that ND highlighted itself. At the end of that ND line, there is single inverted comma and
Okay, okay.
L3.
And if, oh, sorry, I was looking. So what is this? Good question. What have I done? That may be your curiosity. Okay, overall, this command you might have understood, but what is this? So you might see that I've got this number 13. For some reason, I've used number 30. Maybe because it is the unlucky number or for whatever reason. Just for fun, just for a dark humor, I've used it. But otherwise, basically what I'm trying to say is I have an if, then there is a line break. And then eventually I'm going to close it using end if. So this is the start of my block if, and this is the end of my block if. I mark the end and the start with identical comments. It could be anything. It could be A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. This is my own style. I don't know whether any other programmer does that way. In programming industry, actually a more popular style is alignment. So what I'll do is I'll align them in such a way so that I will come to know where each end if ends.
Okay. Okay, sir.
But I somehow find this more convenient for myself. Okay, you can go by the alignment method also. What they do is now this else if is another if, right? So they will press a tab, they will align it inside. Now this is a part of that only. This also they press a tab, and then based on alignment you get to know. Okay, this might be placed here. Okay, so this is an if with its condition. What if it is satisfied? You will do this. Else, but then it opens up another if. So that's going to be here. If that is satisfied, you will do this. This end if may be aligned here. So where this if starts, there itself the end if must also start. So that way, using these alignments, you might be able to figure out things better. That's individual choice. That's individual style. My individual style is I prefer to mark them. I don't care so much about alignment, but I mark them with some kind of a letter, alphabet, or number, or some special character, or some remark, something or the other I put here. Okay, beyond that, it has got no importance. And macro is not going to pay attention to that at all. It's in green color. Because there is single inverted comma, it's in green and it is like disabled. Okay?
Okay.
So that's as far as this is concerned. Has everyone understood this block if? Okay, it's just trying to address different possibilities wherein I might have the filters, I might not have the filters. Uh, don't expect that user will give you a very clean file. So actually, I began a client list. Point that I'm driving is I may even start the macro at client list. The active sheet is client list in my case. I start running the macro. Now I want to talk about filters. Before I talk about filters, I make sure I'm in the right sheet. I may already be at dividend details or I may not. In any case, after I execute this command, now I reach to dividend details for sure. So now I'm talking about these filters. Are there filters? If filter mode is true, then show data. Else don't. So what's the end result of this? End result of this block if ensures two things. One is you have filters for your this at the top of the table. Okay. And basically while the filters are present, but filters haven't yet been applied. If they are applied, then you are going to clear the data, clear the filters. So the command for that is active sheet.show all data. This is corresponding to this clear. If I go to data tab, filters, if I apply filter, then this clear button is there. This clear button will become enabled if I apply filter. Since I did not apply filter. Okay. Is everyone clear on this part? I think let's move on and see what next the chat wants. See, else if Jayashree has a question. Why end if is not required for else if? Because else if is a part of if. We are still in the same if. So I can go on like this, fundamentally I can go on. Else if, then again some condition. I write the condition and then put them. Then another else if.
बट दिस एलसीए के बाद देन लिखना जरूरी है क्या?
हाँ मतलब ये एक प्रकार से लिखा जा सकता है. Then तो 100% लिखना है. I'm saying after then if you are taking a line break. I mean, I'm just trying to follow this pattern. Okay, the whole point that I'm trying to drive is you can have this multiple times and with a single end if to end it. Because ये पूरा एक ही structure है. If, else, end. So this is a facility in a way. Okay, that you might have multiple scenarios. And you write the first one and then write the second one and the third one. Separate them using else if. The scenarios have to be like mutually exclusive. Keep separating them with else if, and at the end just say end if because all along we're talking about conditions. Now all the subsequent lines are irrespective of anything. Okay. So this particular portion is ensuring it might have appeared a little tricky. There is a nice efficient code which ensures that you are having the filters, but they are not yet applied. Okay, in the sheet, filters are present in the sixth row, but they are not yet applied. So now let's go ahead and apply them. Okay, so worksheets client list dot select. I press F8. Client list is selected. Now cell 65536 comma 1 dot select. So I go to 65536 wherever that might be. And there already. Okay, I'm not sure whether this happened. Here, once more. I think because you have turned off screen, I didn't go certain screen is not show. When it has gone to that cell, and if I press F8, it comes up and hits something. I suppose it has reached. I just press F8 and capture L row. And L row is 108. So I don't know whether this was obvious to you. What Excel has done is it went to this sheet. This is very straightforward. Then it went to this cell. Okay, somehow we couldn't see that properly, so I'll just show you. As good as we use this go to and A65536. Okay, 65536. And from there, if I come up, what does it say? Selection dot end Excel up dot select. Okay. Now I am going to use this L row. L row, I think I run once more. The selection dot end Excel up. I press F8, I go up. I think come up now. It's difficult to show that way. Like if I press Control up arrow, I'll hit here, correct? So it's like Control up arrow. You are here and Control up arrow. You hit here. And where have you stopped here? Control up arrow, so it is showing. Okay. So at the end of it now, if I press F8, what I get is the L row figure. L row is 108. Now, does this portion look familiar to you? Have you seen this kind of a portion before, especially these three lines? Have you seen them before? Hello? Have you seen something like this? So, if you remember, I think during the time of loops, I'll better open the file. Okay, when we studied loops, that point of time we saw this. So, this last track, if you remember this last track line, we have seen that so many times. Mm, I think twice, thrice this last track was written. Here also we have last track. Okay. Sorry. So this was the loops wala lesson. Now coming back over here, worksheets dividend details dot select. Can we go a little faster now? Now the idea is we know the last row. And any guesses why we are going to determine the last row? Because we are in a mood to start the loop. Before we start the loop, we are going to activate this worksheet. So I have just pressed F8. And now it says for I equal to 2 to L row. We know this already, correct? That we can determine the last record and we can run a loop till the last record. So starting from the second row, I'm going to run this till row number 108. What am I going to do? I'll press F8 and get started with my loop. C codes. What is this C code? C code is a variable. I define C code as worksheets client list dot cells I comma 1. Okay, which worksheet are we talking about? We are talking about worksheet client list. वर्कशीट क्लाइंट लिस्ट के सेल्स I comma 1 में चाहिए. So cells means cell is I comma 1. What is value of I to begin with? Value of I is 2. Second row and first column. What do you have? If you come here in the second row, first column you have 110 101. Okay, we changed the worksheet. So I'm going to come back here. Okay, you can't change the worksheet like this. Even if you change it temporarily, you should come back. You should resume the macro execution from that point where you had stopped. In between, if you make some changes, you restore it back. Okay, the C code is a variable. It was not declared, so it was of variant type. It is empty to begin with. When I press F8, now it gets the value 110, 101. And what we are going to do now, by capturing that value, we'll apply a filter in E column. So I go to E6, range E6 dot select. Okay, so I have gone to E6 and now the next line is selection dot auto filter. Okay, the next line is selection dot auto filter So apply the filter. What is the selection? As per the previous line, it is E6. So where are we going to apply the filter? In E6, the field is 5. Anyways, that's confirmed here. That is the fifth column. And what is the criteria? My criteria is C code. So criteria itself is a variable here. I'm not talking about any fixed criteria. C code should not be taken as a C code in absolute sense. If I need C code means C code, then it will be in a pair of double inverted commas. Then actually for the word C code, filter will get applied. Okay, this is not a variable, this is a constant. But if you write without double inverted commas, it is reckoned as a variable. And the value is already determined, 110, 101. So when I press F8, what happens is in E column, a filter gets applied and we can see only the records corresponding to 110, 101. Is everyone convinced till here? Is everybody convinced till here? Okay, is everybody with me? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay, great. So now I would like to proceed even further. This is a simple macro actually. It's just that it's the right kind of macro for our present level and it's a genuine macro. Genuinely did a, maybe it was a small job, but we achieved economy. Small in terms of logic, but definitely for 108 people, if I'm going to apply filters one by one, instead of that, let me just do it through a macro. So now again I'm going to cell 65536, 1. Again I'm going to press F8. And when I do so, it's in this particular worksheet. I go to 65536, 1. Okay, due to screen updating turned false, it is not showing very properly. The selection.end xlf.select when I press F8, I come back here. Okay, I went to the bottom and now I've come back. Where did I hit? I hit at row number 10, correct? So last row equal to active cell dot row. What is active cell dot row? 10th row. So last row is another variable, not to be confused with L row. So we have L row as one variable and last row as another variable. Both are different variables. Some of you might ask this question: is it compulsory to write this capital L over here? Okay, we have written the capital L over here. We have also written capital L over here. So there is no such compulsion. Maybe at some point of time I felt, okay, let's write capital. But there is no such compulsion. You can have this in small cases. Okay, last row equal to active cell dot row when I press F8. Now the value of last row as a variable is 10. Okay, L row has 108. That is the number of clients. Number of clients from 2 to L row means we are talking about clients. In last row, we are talking about the last row in this table, which is visible. And that is 10th row. After applying filter, which is the last visible row? The answer is 10. So now we are doing something very interesting. We are going to highlight a range. And this is a very efficient code. Have a look at that. I tell Excel that you select this range. Which range? Starting from cells 1, comma 1. Okay, that is first row, first column. Running up to cells last row, comma 8. Last row has just now been determined as, what is last row value? 10. It has just now been determined as 10. So from 1, comma 1 to 10, comma 8. Whatever is that range, that entire range needs to be highlighted. So I'm going to press F8. And can you see? Whatever I said, accordingly, the highlighting has happened. Yeah, I'm highlighting this. Clear, everybody? Okay, and then I've got a disabled code. There was one line which I disabled. It was for taking out a printout, where we were supposed to take out a print. So what I said was selection.printout. That means whatever is selection, whatever has been selected as per the previous line, only that should be printed How many copies? One copy. Do you want collation? Then collate is true. Collate true may not make sense here, but somehow I did a recording of this printout. And when I did a recording, somehow I got this as a part of it. I didn't really remove it. Okay, collate true. Maybe said, maybe declared, may not be declared. Doesn't matter. It's not really relevant. But we are through. Okay, just imagine this green line is actually enabled. Then you have ended up taking out a print also. And the next line is next line. Have you understood this line, this round of execution? Any questions in this round of execution? Does anyone have any question? No questions. Now I'll press F8. Let's see it once more. Now can I go a little faster? I've been going very slow. Now I think slowly, steadily I'll increase the speed. Now when I say next time, needless to say, the I value gets incremented. Sorry. I value to begin with was 2. Now it is the second round. I said next time it went up, and secondly it increased the value of I. So now what is C code? If I want, I can go to View tab, Watch window. I can keep watching for C code. C code expression, I would like to watch it. So C code value is 110, 101. But now I'm going to revise it. Observe carefully. It's 110, 101 right now, but when I press F8, now it gets revised to 110, 102. Right? The next value has been picked up. Again, I'm going to do the same thing. I'll go to E6, range E6 dot select, and the filter is applied on that. 110, 102. Now you have got a different set of records. What will you do with them? You will go to the bottom, come up. Last row is redetermined. Last row now is 14. So you highlight this range. The entire range is highlighted at once. And print it. So second round is also over. This is a very easy job, logically speaking. I can have a third round. I can press F8. Then we can start with C code. Then range E6 dot select. Another filter. Now 110, 103 has very less number of records, just 2 of them. Again, I go to the bottom. I come up. Select. And so on. Okay, have you understood? Any questions on this loop portion? What is happening? Are you following? I hope you guys are doing this with me. This is not merely an exercise where you are listening to me. I think there is a question from Anuradha ji. In the printing part, will we have to include the disable screen alerts? Yeah, you can do that. So disable screen alerts is basically application.display alerts equal to false. You can do that. So that way you will save your alerts. Having said that, generally that alert is more of a notification. That alert hardly talks about, hardly seeks any input from you. I think somebody is raising his hand or something. So, Jayeshi, do you have a question? Okay, if you raise a hand and suppose that question is answered, then you lower it. Jayeshi, you had expressed a question some time back. Do you still have a question? I mean, do you still have your question? Because that one I answered. Do you have a new question or there is no more question? Okay. So no more a question, I suppose. What you should do is let's just lower the hand. I think you are lowered the hand. Okay, ask a question, raise a hand, ask your question, and then lower it so that uh, there won't be any confusion later. So let's do one thing. I think there are no questions with respect to this loop. It was a pretty straightforward macro. So let's finish it. How do we finish it? I often click here outside the loop. I've understood the loop. Now, is there any point in doing this for 108 times? Let's not do it for 108 times. So I apply a break here, break point here, application.screen updating equal to true. And after applying this breakpoint, I can press F5 or press this green button here. Continue. Okay, I'll just press this button after applying the break. The macro will run at its own pace. Press that. So it is true. For some reason, I've got books created. No.
Sir, I have one question, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, as we done just now on client code, same way can we do on script as well?
Yeah. Anything. Line code is just
Uh,
an example. So
okay,
if it is
because
script code, then you should have a script list, and then you can apply a filter on that, and then only thing your column will change. Now you will apply filter on P column. So in that case, you will make some suitable change over here. For example, it says range E6 dot select. Instead of that, you can choose B6, and then selection dot auto filter field is 2. On second field, you will apply script code. So just make some suitable changes, and you can use it.
So as the client code has used the serial 110101110102, in that case, how script will work by alphabetically means how it choose on.
See, it's not serial number. Let's understand. We have the
Okay,
list up here in client
okay,
list. The client code is being borrowed from there. The client code is
okay,
being determined here. See, we have this C code definition line. How does the C code get defined? So
client
it
list.
worksheet client list dot cells I comma 1. So I throw and first column. So to answer your question, you need to decide upon the list of scripts and I should put it here in place of the client list. Same
Instead
thing.
of putting in another sheet, can we do directly with, on that sheet, like on dividend details only?
Wherever you want to put. I mean, you need a list for sure. Okay, how will you apply filter one by one? So you'll need a list. Keep it in this sheet or that sheet. So then
Okay.
accordingly, your definition line will change. If it is in the current sheet itself, then you can write sheets dividend details dot cells I comma 1 or whatever, I comma 5, I comma 10. Okay, the sheet name will change. You'll have to get this sheet name here and the column number will change. It may not be in the first column. It may be somewhere in 10th column, 12th column.
Okay.
Okay, all these things can be played with depending upon what is your situation. You need to make suitable changes and then it will automatically get reflected.
Okay. No, actually, I was thinking that instead of using another sheet, can we use directly detailed dividend details data in that we give a range of column E, and on that base, can we play a code on that base? Basically, it is a client code. Am I right?
Uh,
Directly, can
See,
we
you
play
can
a
write
code?
the macro anyhow. So do you wish to specify a range from a starting point to an ending point? Why? Because you have your client list here.
Yes.
Okay, you know it's 101, 102, starting from 101, going up to 127. So that itself can be a loop.
Okay.
Okay, one by one, you determine it with the help of a loop and just keep feeding it. That way also you can do it. I had a list here. But suppose there is no list or there is no requirement for a list. Okay, what you can do is you can just go by the range one by one. So it can be one very simple idea like this. You might define this. I'll tell you a very simple idea. You may give an initial value of C code as 110100. Okay, this is the initial value. And then once the loop starts, the first thing that you will do is code equal to C code plus. Okay, this is the initial value. This will get executed only once. This is before the loop. This is inside the loop. So what happens? You are kind of one step behind. Okay, you have gone one step behind. What your first client is 110, 101. 101 is your first client, so you define the initial value as 100. When the loop starts, 100 becomes 101. Okay, then this line is not needed. Okay, this line is there. And then you apply the filter. Then do the needful. Then next time. In next time, what happens? This C code becomes 110, 102 because now it is plus 1. Then filter on 102. Comes back. 102 becomes 103. You can play it that way. But only thing is, then you will need a condition to exit. Here I had said for I equal to 2 to L row. What is L row? L row is determined in client list. Correct? You have a client list. You come to the bottom. You come up. And this becomes your L row. So what I said was, here's my L row. Please run it till L row. But you won't be able to write any L row. You will have to write, instead of L row, you will have to write, actually, I'm writing in green, but you will have to write as 65536 or 10,48,000, whatever. And you will have to give a condition to exit. How will you exit your loop? After applying the filter, you have this last row, correct? You determine your last row.
Yes.
Okay, if your last row is now eventually I might end up determining somewhere 208, correct? Till 207, I have got all of them. Let's say I determine this 110, 208. And if I apply filter, what will I get? I get it this way. So you will come to the bottom, come up, and your last row will hit the header. It will stop at the header row because no record was discovered. So if it stops at the header row, your exit line will be this way. Your exit line will be if last row equal to 6, then exit. This is how you will exit. So although your upper limit is 65,536, okay, theoretically this may go up to 65,536 rows. You don't intend to run it till 65,536 rows. Once you finish all the codes, then you will automatically, when you apply filter, nothing you will get, and you will end up banging on the header. The last row will be a 6. If last row becomes 6, then exit the loop, get out, and finish the code. So this is how you will have to approach it. So that way you don't need a client list. Have you got it?
Yes. Yes.
Logically, have you followed it? So the discussion. So this is possible. I mean to say, I would like to give one message to everybody. And basically, something that is logically correct, something that logically makes sense, all those things are possible in macros. You can do it. Okay, sometimes it is easy. Sometimes it is straightforward. Sometimes it takes some time to figure out how exactly you are going to write. But it is generally possible. Generally, 99.99%. But then if you go for some kind of a theoretical scenario, then it may or may not be possible. Generally, whatever happens in real life, that you can write a macro for that. There are enough tools, enough codes. You can take help of them and you can. Okay, so sky's the limit. You can do many things. There are many ways in which this entire macro can be written differently by different person. Maybe if I write this today, I will write it in a totally different way. That is also possible. Okay, if I write it today, it will be in one way. If I write it after 5 days, it may be another way. Not because in 5 days I have learned something new, but while writing, I may adopt a different style. Okay, not consciously, but subconsciously. So that way, the same program, a program which works, working program can be written by different people in different ways. Okay, that's very much possible. Okay, so where's my macro execution? Somehow it executed completely. It seems so screen updating has turned true. Okay, have you understood? Run it once and see. Okay, what I would like to do is I just ran it F8 wise. But what if I don't use F8? Okay, please note what I'll do is I'll apply filters on something just for fun. I have applied filter on something. Something has been shortlisted. I submit like this. On one hand, I have applied filter here. On the other hand, client list is the active sheet here. Okay. I submit like this to macro. And let me run it. So I'll go to developer tab. I'll click on macros. Okay, this is the macro. I'll just run it 9:15 p.m. Has anything changed? Look at the screen updating. Is screen getting updated? But this is vibrating. If you look at the mouse pointer, it is changing its shape. Something is happening, but can you see its reflection? Now suddenly at the end, you can see the final thing. Yes or no? What happened? The final picture is directly filter applied on 110 207. In between, all the clients were processed. Filter for each client was applied. Did we happen to see that? The answer is no. We didn't happen to see that. Why? Because the screen updating was turned false. Now, just for demonstration, what I'll do is I'll disable the screen updating equal to false just for fun. Okay, if I disable this, I'll disable both the commands because then if this is false, this true is not really required. You can write it, no harm in that. But it's not needed because by default it is anyways true. So momentarily, if I disable this and I'll apply filter on something else, this SL pack, on this I have applied filter. And within all that also, let's say, something greater than 1. I apply filter. So two filters have been applied, not one but two filters. Okay, I save this and I'll again start the whole process. Client list over here. Okay, just watch it. I'll click on macros and I'll run. The screen updating has been turned off. Rather, screen updating off. That command has been disabled. So actually, screen updating will stay on. When I press the run button, can you see the screen is getting updated? Observe carefully. Something is happening on this sheet. Look at the row numbers and all. It may be too fast, but at least it is visible. It's updating. and ultimately it leaves it at this. If you measure with stopwatch, this without screen updating equal to false will take more time. Even in terms of few seconds or milliseconds or something, but it will definitely take more time. It's very logical to follow. Why? Because it has to do two jobs. One is to actually do the job. Second is to also present that on the screen. Not needed. Why to burden the macro with two jobs? Let's burden him only with one job. Because while the macro is on, you can't do anything and you are not supposed to do anything. You are supposed to wait. Got it? Okay, have you understood this command screen updating? You should first develop your macro. Once it is tried and tested, at the end of it, you should put screen updating equal to false at the beginning and screen updating equal to true at the end, just before answer. So that will save your processing time. It has got no other work but just to save your processing time. Now, Bhadresh Mehtaji has a question. The title of the sheet is dividend outstanding for more than 6 months. The macro code should include comparison with date and calculate more than 6 months. So here the assumption was actually this was not really a full-fledged job of verification of separating out. Maybe we can attempt to write that kind of a macro. This macro was actually a printout macro. Okay, the data was already removed for that purpose, and the main challenge was to print so many tables. How to print? Because I've disabled this line of printing. I disabled for obvious reasons. I don't want even by mistake. Okay, I've retained the line for reference, but I've not deleted it, but I've disabled it. Even by mistake, all these printouts should not go to your printer. I don't know. Some of you might have your printer connected to your machine. So many printouts get issued. It will be a waste of paper unnecessarily. So when I developed this macro for some genuine job, we were supposed to take out printouts, and that was the main challenge. We had already shortlisted the data, the dividends which were definitely due for more than 6 months but not yet received at that point of time. Today, this is not much of a problem, but still, as an auditor, you might still verify that. But these days, generally, the dividends are paid out directly electronically. Previously, this was more than a decade back. We did that when we did not have electronic payments for dividend, and dividends typically would come in the form of a check. So whether those checks were truly deposited, not deposited, what happened to those dividends, we used to verify that. And we used to find cases, dividend outstanding for more than 6 months. So then we would report it. So that data is already shortlisted. How to shortlist that data from a larger data? Maybe that's a very good point on which a macro can be written, but that is not the subject matter for this file. I mean, the data is too insufficient. We'll need the data of dividends. And probably we can design a macro. However, I will advise that right now, don't try to take up a real project. Again, I'll repeat what I said probably on the first day or second day. Right now, develop macros for which there is no requirement of a macro. Okay, take up some job which doesn't require a macro. First, write a macro for that. Can you write a macro for that? Once you develop confidence, then you can graduate to higher level. Try to automate an activity which will require only 5 seconds to complete. Can you do that? If you can't do that, if you can do that, then try an activity which takes maybe 20 seconds. If you can do that, then try an activity which takes 1 minute. And like this, slowly and steadily develop your skills. And see, if an activity takes more time, that means there are more steps involved and more complications also. So slowly and steadily you graduate. Yes, Radresh, you are absolutely correct. After 7 years, it will go to Investor Education Protection Fund. That's correct. So that's another thing we need to check actually. that do we have long outstanding dividends? But that is actually from the perspective of where we have received a dividend and like it's from the perspective of a company where a company has issued a check and company is not sure. Like nobody has come to claim it. Then once a dividend is declared, it's no more money of the company also. The company should not use that, even like a source of working capital. So then company has to transfer it to IPO. Okay, but this is more from the perspective of an investor. An investor was trying to collect money, but then his custodian did not credit to his account for whatever reason. We are looking from that perspective. Okay, whichever way, my point is, whatever is the task in hand, we can write a macro for that fundamental, this way or that. Okay, any questions, anybody?
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, a simple macro. And now I want you all to get into the macro development mode also next Wednesday. That is day after tomorrow. We will write a macro, we'll take up a situation and we'll write a macro. But in between, go on a recording spree. Do recordings and try to write some macros on your own. Ideally, recording based, but you can borrow some codes from macro code library. You can borrow some portions of codes from whatever examples we have discussed in the sessions. You can borrow from that also. And see if you can automate a 30-second job, which otherwise takes 30 seconds for you to complete manually. Doesn't really require an automation, but can you take some baby steps in that direction? Just test yourself and then stretch yourself. Stretch stretch your limits. Stretch your comfort zone. So anybody has any questions? No questions. I think whatever questions were there, we have been discussing them from time to time. Still, if anybody has anything, ask now, else probably we can conclude.
Anybody has any doubt, any question for today's session?
Yes, sir. After putting filters, can we also copy paste into a new sheet?
See, madam, I would like to put it this way. We can do anything. So you have taken a print, and so I think your question is, can we insert a new sheet? And whatever table gets generated, can we copy paste? So yes, we can do that. If you ask me the question, can we do that? Yes, we can do that. So we can do anything and everything in macro. Just that, of course, I'm not going to do that because then it will we'll get into another tangent. So many things are possible, but probably you can try that. The moment say till here a filter gets applied, right, and you end up selecting also. You are not really printing it, but you have ended up selecting also. Can you copy this? Can you then insert a new sheet? In one of our previous sessions, we had discussed how we can insert a sheet and concurrently rename also. Okay, I think on Wednesday itself we saw that while looking at the while creating the table of contents. So you highlight this highlighted is already there. Then you put up a line for copy, then insert a new sheet, concurrently rename it also. You can maybe rename it on the basis of C code. Okay, give the sheet name as C code itself as a variable. Okay, so variable's value will be assigned and then paste it and then come back to this sheet. Okay, before it goes to next tab, okay, come back to the current sheet. Which is the current sheet? The current sheet is actually worksheets dividend details worksheets dividend details. Okay, on that logic, I will encourage you to just stretch and see if you can add a supplement to this macro. And if you are just wondering if that's possible, you can test out for yourself whether you can do it. I think you can do it. They have given you the logic. Try to see if you can formulate the code for it. And if you face any difficulties in the next session, we first thing, because normally the first 10 minutes we wait practically till everybody joins. So in that we can see the difficulties also, if any. Okay, so what I want everybody to do, not only ma'am, but everybody should try some codes, try some recordings, try some macros, invent your own situation. As I told you, something very simple. Don't take a big job. Okay, let's not consider big jobs. Something very small. Can you write a macro from scratch? Maybe by using recordings, maybe by using library, maybe by using the files I already shared with you. Try something, and in the first 10-15 minutes, we can take up questions, queries, difficulties, if any, in that. By that time, everybody will join, and then we'll start with the discussion for that day. Okay, so let's try that way, maybe on Wednesday.
Thank you, sir. Even though you are having a throat problem, you have taken a full session with
Very sorry
full
for the
enthusiasm.
hoarse voice today. Voice has been hoarse actually.
Yes.
My apologies.
So, thank you very much, sir, for giving this session big knowledge about the various things of the Excel macros. And I think the participants are really enjoying and learning Excel macro very nicely, and a session is very interactive. So thank you very much, sir, and thank you very much to all the participants who have attending continuously this sixth session. And normally this type of series, we need this type of participants who continuously and actively participate in the session. So thank you very much, all of you, for remain present. So we have our seventh session on Wednesday. So we will once again meet on 7 day, and hope that the voice of sir is also getting better on Wednesday. So thank you very much, all of you, and have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.